What's cracking? What's rolling, YouTube? It's your local Phantom Loc, aka Silk the Lokester. It is keeping it 3100.
I see you folks clicking up, looking like you tough, acting like you banging now, nigga. Walk around with that flag out your pocket until the real come and asks what you claiming now, nigga. 1, 2, 3, oh shots from a loose cannon and it's blazing through your torso, nigga. 1, 2, 3, oh shots from a loose cannon and it's blazing through your doors now, nigga.
Yeah, nigga, that Loc is back. Come to your section, them shells rat-a-tat-tat. Cause what you banging, what you claim, you know what's up. If a person know, got that dagger exposing your fucking guts. Yeah, that blue been in me. Free my big cousin, cuz like me. Our gang's different, but we both bleed blue. Heart pump no Kool-Aid, them shots come through. I stay true blue, been true to that blue. Been true to the cause, so what about you?
When Vietnam vets would be in Vietnam and they would be wounded 1 or 2 times and have to be sent back and get an honorable discharge and probably a Purple Heart for bravery or valor. And you got people like Lil Crazy D, right, who've been wounded like 13, 14, 15 times, right? Pieces of his head missing. And then people like yourself or myself, you've been stabbed, I've been shot several times. Where do we go when our mind has been so hung up in years, not months of combat, and our mentalities have been reduced to mincemeat? Where do we go to seek compensation, not necessarily monetarily, right? But emotionally. You know, we need psychiatric help too, and we have no Veterans Administration. And it's starting from the cradle to the grave. You know what I mean? Starting from the cradle and ending with the grave. It gets so tiring to the point where it's mind-racking, and in moments of clarity, we commit acts like suicidal acts, and which sometimes results in what we go on now, which is gang activity, you know what I'm saying?
If you look at what's happening to our country right now, it's the same thing that we do to other countries, and you should know this. What we do, and I'm sorry to say this, sometimes I'm not proud of this, but we go to other countries, we tell them how to live their lives, we put in a person that we think should be in charge, and then support them. And sometimes the rebels, our ways. Now, this is the question. How long has the U.S. been around? Anybody? 200 plus years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
how long's the Middle East been around? And I know I'm generalizing there, but been around 10,000, 15,000 years? Yeah. Who are we to tell them how to live their lives?
Exactly.
And I'm sorry to say that, but it's the truth. Who are we? And I understand people need help, but who are we to go over there and try to tell them how to live their lives? Unless you're gonna stay there and make that happen, which I think is fucked up to begin with, because you're telling them you're gonna live by my set of rules, but you know, no country does that.
No.
Except us. And that's what's happening to us right now. They're setting up FEMA camps.
For those who's tuning into the channel for the first time, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. For everybody else, let's jump right into it. So today's topic, it's going to be a very deep subject. 2 halves of a coin in terms of perspective and comparison. Gangs and the military, and how these 2 worlds sometimes intertwine. Now, those 2 clips you guys just saw, the first one was from The Making of a Crip, the story of Monster Kody and Lil Monster, members of the 8 Trey Gangsta Crips. And the second was from a documentary called The Other Side. I recommend you guys watch those 2. Point number 1, the United States military. To protect the United States of America from outside threats, such as terrorism. Organizations like this were first formed and created to protect the communities and neighborhoods where they thrive from outside influences, such as opposing organizations, gangs, corrupted police, and so on and so forth, during a time where things were not in our favor. as a people. Point number 2, combat training. Military has their ways of combat military training. We have our ways of combat training. For us, some sets, they have a way to have combat training and at the same time having fun. Us in the military, we always tell our soldiers and all that to stay fit. A healthy body goes a long way, especially in combat. Number 3, uniforms. The military has their uniform, which is camouflage or wherever they choose. For us, our uniforms is obviously the blue. For the Bloods is the red. The Pirus is burgundy. The Hoovers is orange. The folks, you know what I'm saying? So on and so forth, you know. Number 4, flags. Now, this is where things kind of intertwine. Yes, we all, at the end of the day, were made in America. The United States military, Crips and Bloods, folks and peoples, nations, I should say, folk and people nations, and so on and so forth. Most of these organizations were made in the United States of America. But, there's a big but now. Some of the homies, you know, are or have been in military, and even though they're fighting for the red, white, and blue, behind that camouflage uniform is their true colors. Some people do bleed the red, white, and blue, but you have some that bleed either the blue, either the red, either the burgundy, orange, so on and so forth. The Confederacy, skinheads, you know, neo-Nazis and all that, hate groups, yeah, they in the military too. It's not a crime to be who you truly are while being in the military, which is productive, you know, because at the end of the day, it's our First Amendment right. You know, it's in black and white. It's in the Constitution, Bill of Rights, you know. They even made a full episode of Gangland about, you know, gangs in the military and all that. Gang members that are in the military. They made a whole episode of Gangland about that. But let's continue. Ranks. Military have ranks. These organizations have ranks. Some of them ranks that we have are kind of the same as military ranks. Some, not all. The military has so much ranks. And then organizations and all, they might have, say, a quarter of those ranks. Now, both sides of the same coin. We're both fighting for something. A cause, a purpose, and we all stand for something at the end of the day. The difference is now is the outcomes. One side gets medals, tokens of appreciation most times. And for the other side, well, we get locked away in the system. I'm not trying to make excuses for anybody. You know, everybody's entitled to their own actions. But some people just don't know anything else, you know? And they get locked up for just trying to survive in a cold, cold world. But you do have homies, you know what I'm saying, like I said, that are in the military because they want to own, you know? They want to own property, they want to own land within the country. And what's the best way to do it than to fight for your country? But here's one question I've always wanted to know. And I've seen this back when I was living in the DMV. Sometimes I would see some homeless people and they would hold signs that said they fought for this country and they were military soldiers or whatever the case is, but they weren't rewarded or given what was promised to them by the United States government to fight for their country. So my question is, why is that? You have a soldier coming back home from war with a lot of trauma. Y'all don't know what he saw overseas or wherever he went. And he comes home with no home, no nothing. Why is that?
Level of shooting at each other, you gotta stop shooting at each other. Because it's not about turf. We've been warring with the 60s for 10 years and we ain't moved across Western yet. And they ain't moved across Western, so it's not about land, because neither one of us own nothing that we fighting for. It's not about colors, because the color of freedom in America is green. It ain't red, it ain't blue, so you ain't fighting about colors. What you need to do is rethink the situation. If you want to fight for something, come join us. Come fight for the land. You know what I mean? Fight for the land. Fight for some land that you can say is yours. Don't fight for a street that you don't own a brick on. I've been doing that for 17 years. I'm a 17-year veteran of the Crips. I ain't got nothing. I don't own a brick in this country. You know what I mean? So what you fighting for? You ain't fighting for nothing. And it's not about wearing a Malcolm X t-shirt or wearing a Malcolm X hat. It's about being yourself. You know what I mean? Being an African ain't something that you get up in the morning and put on. It's something that you are. It's something that you are. You know what I mean? It's a mind state. To be in that mind state.
All right, brother.
All right, Jack, I love you.
I love you too.
All right, free the land.
For the land.
And I just want to add that in there because, you know, it doesn't make sense to fight for something that you don't own. But at the same time, though, what if you do own that land? What if you do own that house? What if, you know what I'm saying, your parents, grandparents, been living in that neighborhood all their life, and they pass that house down generation to generation, generation to generation, right? You know, that's how a lot of neighborhoods in LA is. And I could say in places like LA as well. The housing projects, government-owned housing assistance and all that stuff, yeah, they could tear those down all they want at any time because it's up to the government what they want to do. People get so comfortable, you know, and then they fight for what's being rented out every day and all. And then one day they come and they tear down the bricks, brick by brick, and then gentrification. At the end of the day, you have the United States military and they have these street armies, right? And then I've been told this many times. If it was to come down to it, we would fight side by side, back to back with the United States military. And the truth is, that would actually happen if it was to come down to it. You know, because who else knows these streets? Who else knows the ins and outs? Who knows their ways around? The outside threats or the ones that were made in America from the military to the gangs that were made in America. These organizations that were made in America. I ain't talking about the regular street cats and all this other shit. I'm talking about us Crips, Bloods, Pirus, Hoovers, Folks, etc. And the reason why I cut the regular street dudes off is because this. What do you see them doing these days? If you really observe it, if you notice things, what do you see them doing these days? Do they have certain guidelines and things they go by? We have certain things that we go by and things that we definitely do not do. And if we do those things that we're not supposed to do and all that, well, the consequences can be very severe. But these regular street cats, they don't get no repercussions for that shit. And it's like a free-for-all, dog-eat-dog type of thing they got going on, all that. Hell. Now, I'm not going to lie. Like I said in a couple videos, some sets, some gangs amongst the Crips are like that as well. But compared to a regular street cat, you know what I'm saying? What weighs more? But at the end of the day, we're all fighting for something, for a reason. And then you will have these feminists and all that shit talk about, oh, that is just toxic masculinity, fucking bullshit. What these motherfuckers are trying to do is make us as men weak as fuck. That's why you see all these motherfucking, I don't even know, man, they're not even men. That's why you see all these fucking weirdos wearing fucking skirts and all that shit. You know what I'm saying? Doing some weird ass shit, turning tricks and all that. You know what I'm saying? Just for a fucking dollar. Industry shit. Man, fuck out of here with all that, man. No. Combat and all that shit they be talking about, toxic masculinity and all that shit, that is what actually makes you a real fucking man. Don't let, you know what I'm saying, that game twist your head up and make you think that you should go soft or loosen up. No. What they say is toxic masculinity, keep that. Keep that. Because at the end of the day, we're not supposed to be wearing no fucking skirts and all this other weird ass bullshit that they be doing these days and all that. Now, if you remember what dude said in the clip of The Other Side, I mean, really, that's what we do. We do the same thing. The only difference is the environment. We're not doing that overseas. We're doing that in the cities, the suburbs, basically within the country, while they're doing that outside the country. But we're doing the same thing. It's just different concept, different caliber, different level. Remember, us Crips, you know, we was going to neighborhood by neighborhood and we squabble up, and whoever wins, you know, gets control. And then that's when you have blood gangs start being formed because they didn't want to go with our program and all that. They didn't fuck with what we had going on. So they made their thing and they started fighting up against us. See, this shit goes deeper than colors. Colors is just uniform. The red is just the opposite of blue. It's just to show that they rebel against us. But, like I said, this shit goes deeper than colors. And also, for real, it's like, to be honest with you, it's no different than the Civil War. with the Union and the Confederacy. But at the end of the day, another thing we all have in common, whether you're a Crip, Blood, Confederate, etc., cop, we all have dead homies as a whole. Whether it's personally, individually yourself, or as a unit, or as a whole, identity, philosophy, and all that, etc., we all have dead homies. Memorial Day is to honor the dead soldiers, right? That fought for the country of the United States of America. We do that too for our homies that's in the United States military, and for those that's not. The ones that's dead fighting out there in these streets of the United States of America. When them caskets get carried, the flags are over the caskets. If they fought for the country, yeah, you have the United States of America flag over the casket, but the homie's going to carry that casket. But if it's not the United States flag, it's our flags. And we honor them every day. Men and women. It's not just, like I said, it's not just one side of the coin that all this is happening to. It's both sides. It's just, the outcome is just different. Shit's unfair, but, life is not fair. But I'm gonna end this video with this. So that way, people that are not within this culture or understand this culture, they can understand how we see shit every day when we're out there doing what we do.
In the minds of those soldiers, they feel this is a real war. You dig? And how do you stop a war? I wish I knew. I wish I knew.
You don't know now what's that I claim? I claim 3-0. You ask what I bang? I bang 3-0 with the A in the middle. Avenues, cuz, but I ain't with the riddles. Keeps the 3100, but people not like me. I see the weird shit going on repeatedly. But I'm a go-getter, I goes and gets. Never a lazy ass nigga, ambitious with my bets. Cross the line, pay the debt. Even with your life, pay the debt. Gotta pay the toll, that's how life rolls. I seen too many plays solid, but they always fold. Had a beating heart, froze that shit cold. Don't give a fuck, I'm in that fucking mode. Seen one side, but now it's the other side. One slick mouth, that life of yours, bye bye.